Good morning. Came across a couple of sentences that got me to thinking, and at first juxtaposition of concepts that struck me as odd, and then I had to wonder why. Gave it some thought, and led me to want to offer a couple of words today on the matter. So the concepts arise out of what I read was this: human ambition is limitless and infinite. Then what is the true goal of this infinite desire of human beings? All right, so the opening line obviously discusses ambition and infinite desire. The next sentence reads, so what is the goal of this? What is the true goal of this infinite desire of human beings? For woman, it is man. For man, it is woman. Man and woman can find true love only through each other. All right. We come across plenty of reflection on the notion of human ambition. We encounter it in ourselves. There's manifestations of it that are not particularly attractive. We often use the word to describe people negatively. In fact, I believe it tends to carry a connotation of being negative. If you describe a person as quote unquote extremely ambitious, it's rarely used as a term to compliment or praise the person. It's usually meant to carry some sort of shadow of derision. He or she is extremely ambitious. Similarly, the word desire, or that too, often falls on the side of the ledger in which we have somewhat of a negative feel when we discuss it or when it's discussed. If you imagine hearing it in a sermon preached, and you talk and preachers talking about desire or our desires, it's often put on the negative or critical or that side of the ledger which causes concern. I don't want my quote unquote my desires to get out of control, or I don't want to be controlled by my desires. So here you have a couple of concepts, ambition and what here in this sentence I just read, and infinite desire, that ordinarily or customarily or frequently at least introduced with a negative intention or intending to communicate or ascribe negative qualities to people, or if it's about ourselves, then it's something of concern. And then in the same passage, like all together, all in a package, it goes on. It carries on deliberately to arrive at the sweetest, most delightful, most beautiful, most constantly affirmed, when it's wholesome, of course, that part of life which is the all in all. I want to fall in love. I want to dance hand in hand through the meadows with the girl I love. I want the teenage girl hanging upside down on her bed, writing in her diary and dreaming of this fellow she's seen or met. True love, it's nothing but dreaming, nothing but desirable. As it matures, as it gets beyond the limerence or excitement of first encounter, you can see older couples or couples in the middle of their lives who have gone through a lot together and sacrificed a lot for one another, compromised a lot to get to understand more deeply the person of their love, their husband or wife, collaborated and sacrificed personal interests or preferences to join hands in raising kids and having dreams for their kids. So true love is nothing but the sweetest, finest thing. Generally speaking, whenever it's introduced, I don't shy or shun away from it. Um, if I'm worrying, if I'm thinking about myself, it's just something I want to think about more and more, be better and better at, fall in love more and more deeply. Um, with my wife of 30 years or 40 years, to wake up every day that's fresh like the first day I ever saw her across the classroom. Or love is just straight out, not only on the positive side of the ledger, it's the whole story. It's everything. It's why, why I do anything, why I buy a house, why I buy a car. It drives us all, and it's never frowned upon, the ideals of true love, especially as they mature and they have a record of constancy, a record of investment, a record of genuine, noble sacrifice for the one you love. So you have this, and then it's introduced in this particular passage I read this morning. It's introduced in the context of human ambition, which is traditionally suspect, and infinite desire, which one is often cautioned against, or kind of a bit timid, not to let them get too strong, my desires. And yet here they are, blended in together as participating in one and the same. And so this was delightful for me and interesting to me, and I thought it through in this way, which is why I'm on to share. If you look at the realm or dimension or predominance or constant presence of ambition, and you look at the ever constant presence of our desires, they never go away and they never diminish. They never get less. If we wanted to be the best in our class, or wanted to get into the best university, once that's done, that's not enough. We don't want to just be the best in our class and then not go to college. Or we don't want to get into the best university and then not get a good job. And we don't want to start out with a good job and then not get promoted. Or we don't want to start with a small company and just stay without improving, without a better product, without more profit, without hiring more families, and so on. The nature of desire is that by its very quality in human beings, it is insatiable. It's deliberately insatiable. The reason why ambition and desire are infinitely insatiable is because they were meant to, in the original divine scheme or in God's greatest dream when creating us, they were meant to attach to our longing for goodness. It's very simple. So that if we're trying to be a good and decent person or a loving person, if we're trying to create a summer camp for inner city kids, if we're trying to create a food program in which Saturday mornings teens all gather around, have the time of their life behind the grocery store, packing up bags and cycling them around to the elders in the neighborhood, if anything that attaches itself to good, it's perfectly normal that we want it to be better. Can we get the elders slightly better food? Can we find those who we have not yet heard about? Can we help more? And so forth. So the problem with ambition and desire is that it often attaches to the wrong things, but it isn't so much the wrong things that it attaches to. That more importantly, that it is contaminated with self-interest. The fact that our desires and our ambitions are contaminated or even dominated by self-interest, here's the problem with those things. Thus, we want to diminish them in ourselves, and we often speak critically of others when we describe a person overcome by their desires, or we describe a person as ambitious. It seems to imply that they are willing to sacrifice others for their own personal gain. And yet, in the purest case, ambition and desires are they are insatiable. We're never satisfied at the level we are. We always hope we can do better, perhaps feel we can do better, and want to do better. So the key is not to suppress or diminish or undermine our impulse, our that we are ambitious, and the burning quality of our desires. The key is that they attach themselves to the right things, and that they are not contaminated by self-interest. So, if in fact human ambition is limitless and infinite, so she's not just ambitious, or he just to step up the corporate ladder or something. She's infinitely ambitious. There'll be no end, or there'll be no end in climbing the corporate ladder. There will be no end. And then when you're finally the top of that company, then you want to buy the next person's company. And when you want to have and you have those 3 companies, then you want to be the president of this state, or the president of that country, or buy the entire supply chain of this or that item. It's there's no satiation for. You can't just say, oh, he's kind of climbing up the corporate ladder, and then he'll be head of a division and be satisfied with that. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It is, in fact, limitless and infinite. And this infinite desire of human beings is, as I said just now, the problem is that it attaches to the wrong things, but far more importantly, it is contaminated by self-interest. Then when you think of a juggernaut, an unstoppable machine that is driven to higher and higher and higher places, then you're looking at the capacity to do more and more and more human harm for anything that stops in my way. Whereas if your limitless ambition and limitless desires attach themselves to the right thing, A, and is uncontaminated by self-interest, B, then I'm happy to have a person with endless ambition and endless desires around me, because, tomorrow they'll be better than they were today. Tomorrow they'll be more loving than they were today. Tomorrow they'll make their company finer than it was today. Tomorrow they'll invent something new. They'll discover something new. They'll write something new. And so then what, and here's the beauty of it, and I'll finish here. What is the only possible thing? What is the only possible thing that can house ambition and desire at that boundless, unstoppable force? And the writer, it says, for woman it's man. This is, just like the comic books, just like the sitcoms, just like the movies, just like Disney. For woman it is man, for man it is woman. That is the place where infinite desire can play out. If you desire more wealth, boats and yachts, and it can't stay new. How many yachts can, how much bigger boats can I eventually do? If ambition or desire attaches to these finite matters, they either destroy us or they really cease to satisfy us. If you attach your to intelligence, eventually, or intellectual pursuits, how much can you possibly know eventually? When is enough being the smartest guy in the room. If you know every last thing that happened between A.D. 323 and BCE, 323, up through the Roman Empire, up through the Abyssinian conquest, it's when is enough? How much data is enough? How much intellectual reflection is enough? Attaching my infinite ambitions and infinite desires to the wrong thing, they always expire. They always exhaust. They always become a glut, or they become self-destructive, or they kill you. That's the other option. If you want more speed, like some people are addicted to speed, fastness, driving fast, or that eventually there's limits. There's limits to if this infinite desire attaches to the wrong thing. And then worse than self-destruction, of course, is when it's contaminated by self-interest. But if this unstoppable roar of incessant ambition and desire, if it just attaches to a woman or a man, then it produces unending love, ever deepening love. And ask any old couple who's been around 10, 20, 30, 40 years, you are at a newness, an advent of discovery every single moment, every single day. There's nothing growing old about it. There's nothing growing into how many yachts can I own, how much is enough. There's no how much is enough. The woman in front of me is infinitely A, to be discovered, B, to love, C, to discover how she loves. It's unending, it's fresh, it's new. It doesn't exhaust itself. So here's one of my teachers writing, first of all, introducing limitless ambition and infinite desire as a positive, and then finally introducing, kind of fascinating or liltingly, the simple truth that these were meant of, they're put there as infinite and all-consuming, so that they attach selflessly to the one and only one thing. Well, I want to fall in love. I want to be in love. I want to be head over heels in love, and there's no end to give love. There's no end to that people start to think negatively of you. There's no amount of love you can give that is now old or exhausted or tired. And someone will say, oh, he's ambitious or she's ambitious. Be ambitious to love the one you love and discover the one you love and receive from the one you love. Okay, that's my thoughts, and thanks for listening. And I'll call it there. Thank you.